Well, good evening. This is Vicki from Farm Diggity, and I am with Bud Boudreau. How are you, Bud?
I'm good.
Bud, we're at the dog trial, aren't we? We're at Carbondale in Colorado, and you have been running here. And I talked to you the other morning because this is where you stay, isn't it? In your truck. And I said, how do you do it? And you told me what? What did you tell me about?
Did you ever try and get dressed in the front of a pickup truck?
That's,
And
you said that you had taken your lights out and you were having trouble putting your shoes on in the dark.
got the wrong shoe on the wrong foot.
Yeah. You told me something that really caught my attention, and you said to me that every day you wake up happy to be here. Tell me, Bud, how old are you now?
83 I'll be 84 in 2 months.
84 in 2 months, and it was 30 some degrees here, and we were all in our warm, cozy campers, and you're sleeping in your truck. You're tough as nails.
I've done that all my life because we always used to have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to feed horses as my life progressed,
Right.
And so I've been in that habit of living it rough.
Rough.
But so happy to get up because we have that to do every morning to see what's what with what shape the horses are in and what we're going to do that day, every day, 7 days a week.
Tell me, let's get into that a little bit, Bud. You were a young boy in Chicago, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was like city life. How did you get into the farm stuff?
Well, just when my dad always wanted to go back to the farm because he was an Indiana boy and a farm boy. He had 11 brothers, and they all were all loved ranch work or farm work.
So you moved from Chicago.
Yeah.
And you went where?
To Lawrence, Michigan, was a show barn. Fellow raised Guernsey cattle there.
Oh, okay.
We redid it for horses.
Okay, and so you had race horses. You rehabbed them, didn't you?
Yes.
And tell me, you're not a huge man, but were you small enough to jockey?
Well, I tried to ride when I was younger, but I couldn't quite do weight because you had to be 100 pounds, 95 pounds when you had your bug. That was your apprenticeship, and I couldn't get that weight, but I galloped a lot of horses, broke a lot of yearlings, and
Right. That was our little car that went by, and that's okay. We won't let it bug us. So you were telling me about rehabbing horses back in the day, and it was a really interesting talk about how you would actually run them in the sand and get them back in shape, and you and your dad did a lot of that.
Okay, well, in those days there wasn't much winter racing went on.
Okay.
And we were in the Midwest, and most of our horses came from Detroit, Chicago, maybe Oklahoma, and they had to turn them out during the winter because there was no place to run, and we had a reputation. We developed a reputation on patching up those old broke down horses, as they went bad, and my dad gave up the cattle, and with another fella, they dug out around a bank barn and made a eighth of a mile indoor track around what used to be the stalls and everything like that. And
so you knew how to keep those horses, get them back right,
yeah,
and how to gallop them out and get them fit too.
Yeah. Well, we used to let them down, See, and that's we had a little pen, a turnout pen, where those horses were so wound so tight, just like a lot of these border collies, were wound so tight that you had to gradually let them down on a big store where they could maybe 10 by 10, 8 by 8, something like that, and then go to larger corrals.
I see.
Like that. And
You folks, you and your dad and wasn't his brother in it? You had the knack for it though,
with
with the
we
horses.
always had the love for it, but from the first time we had the horses, uh, we learned more and more, and I took up with. There was one other turnout place in Michigan, and then I went to work for them while we were developing our own, and that was our that gave us the want to build our own indoor racetrack.
Wow.
And I learned a lot from one of the greatest blacksmiths, trainers, horsemen in the country.
Oh wow.
Buzz Titman from Nebraska, and so I worked for him, and then as we were developing our own farm and everything, and my reputation grew, and is to be capable of working with horses, and we were breaking a lot of yearlings at
Right.
the time, and that just kept growing. So we'd wind up with 40 head of a winter, and so you had to let them down slow, and then you had to pick them back up slow too, and just letting them down because they was wound just tight as a drum,
So you learned quite a bit of that. Does that, and we'll get into into how you got in the dog world, but I bet that knowledge carries over to the dogs
Oh
a bit.
yeah, it really does. And the biggest thing that I bring into my life with the dogs is that I was real good with fillies.
Okay.
Because the difference between a big old stout gelding or a stud horse, you had to gallop them long miles and get the belly off. And mostly with the fillies, you just had to keep them happy.
Okay.
Get them fit,
Okay.
and if they were happy, this relates a lot to these dogs.
Okay.
And the only difference between these dogs and the border collies is that it made horses boring to me once I got into the border collies, because you could teach them so much more.
The dogs.
The dogs, you could teach them so many more things that you couldn't teach a horse.
So tell me, how did you get into the dogs? How long ago do you think was that?
Okay.
40 years?
Oh yeah, longer than that. When I think I told you before about the story about the fella that brought. He was a dairy man, not a dog man, because there really wasn't much sheep but there were quite a few cows. And to have a dog to bring the cows in was a big deal.
Right.
Every night. So anyhow, the one fella, he invited us over to his house. He just bought 2 dogs from Great Britain.
Okay.
And it was a male and a female. And he told us right in front, he says, I want to show you what I can do with these dogs. And the first thing he showed us was this great big long stick, like a 2x4. That when you took the dog, I forget his name, when you took him out, you better be sure to have that big.
Because that was actually in the dog's instructions when it flew over, right?
You said,
yeah.
And that was, and so they were just building I-90, going through Michigan to New York and all like that, east and west, Chicago, and that kind of dates when that was going on, and there was a lot of traffic. They were building a turnoff exit ramp right near that ranch. You could see all the activity to go there. And he called us over, and he had a nice pen of real nice heifers, but these were dairy heifers, so they're pretty relatively docile and handled a lot. And he amazed us. He just opened the gates, and those heifers came out, and he sent those two dogs out there right behind him and put them right back in the stall. They just jogged out there, and the dogs went out and gathered them, you know. And when the male was when he wanted to do something, he just raised the two
Gave him the threat. So that's and did you? Beginning. That's the beginning.
And they had word signals on them and those instructions too. And so I wind up getting a puppy from those people, but I'm still with the horses. See.
You got a busy road here, Bud. So you got a puppy from those two dogs, and they were well bred.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do nothing about any of that yet, you know. And of course, I don't think there were any trials, you know, in the United States. This was kind of a first. And so when he told me what they could do and everything, and that he could make them go right and left, and we had this indoor track and a bunch of corrals out, you know, real straight corrals, hills and everything, Michigan hills there. And I got a little book. Oh, you know how I started them going right and left? There was a silo that was torn down there, and it had they all have a real stout foundation, you know, cement foundation, round silo for silage. And so I put a snow fence around there, and I put the dog on the other side, but I had my signals backwards. And I put the dog on the other side, and I'd start him on next to me, and I'd say, okay, away, and he'd come to me. And I'd say, I would say, come by. And
it was back to front.
Backwards, you know. I mean,
but you got a book to straighten you out?
Huh?
Did you get a little book?
I think I read it somewhere. I don't know if it was a pamphlet or what it was that I read it on. And so then during the winter months, I had this indoor racetrack.
Right.
And I worked it out so I could stand here and I could make the dog run all the way around that racetrack. But he was going the wrong way, I was telling him, see? And you go around that big indoor sand is about, you could gallop two horses in abreast. And so anyhow, and then that all evolved. Oh, and I had old Shorty. Shorty was he was short of wits, you know. He was a good old, real South fella from pretty close to New Orleans and East Texas, you know. And his job, the reason he was on the horse farms was because he worked at a livery stable, and their big thing was they brought in a lot of mules, and his job was to go plow up local people's gardens, you know, with the mules. But these were green mules and everything. And Shorty, he's a funny looking little guy, and he rode a paint horse to work all the time at the other horse farm, and so he went to work for us at that time, and so I'd have Shorty I got a little packet of sheep, and I put them. Shorty was to go hide them, and then my dogs were supposed to find them.
Okay.
With my scent or whatever, and he had to go to the darndest place to hide them, and he lived on the bottom, you know, and Shorty'd take them. It didn't matter. It was around the garage or down in a corral or wherever. Then we thought the dogs had to find them. And we got the job done, though. We keep at it. It's cold or warm. And old Shorty, he's come out and he was really, really mad one day of that. He just sat down and he was all puffed up, you know, because he'd get a little irritated. You have to watch him when he got like that. But he said, you know what? You ain't got me going out there to bring you those sheep. He said, you're putting those sheep out to see if I can find them. And then.
So how did you learn properly? How did you get instruction and get going?
This comes good. Well, later on, then that went. Oh, and those that collie, the little puppies that I got retrieved like that
from the two
dogs.
Know
what he used to do? This amazed me. And then I didn't have nothing to do with him. I was just on the racetracks after that. And at that time, my mom, remember when they hung out clothes every time in the yard? You had a nice yard, grass yard. And my little sisters, when they were little babies, that dog would just kind of sidle up to them. See, they saw what my mom did. With the kids wasn't supposed to go out of the yard, away from the yard with their clothes hanging up. And she, because we kept her in plenty of dirty clothes. and that dog, we used to say, look at that. I forget the names. Look at that. And they would sidle up and keep the kids in. Keep the kids in. It blew my mind. And then later on, I won't skip all the things, the broken back and this and that, and the big sail bar, you know. But I'm on a racetrack, and then I had nothing to do with border collies then for a long time.
Oh, okay.
So then my kid, he had a I don't know what kind of, I forget he had a steer he was showing.
Okay.
He about 15. He was with me. By then I was busy shoeing horses. I evolved from training to shoeing horses.
Oh, okay.
Because I learned that real early.
Right.
And I was shoeing in Maryland, and he was showing that calf in the fair, and I went to see it, you know.
Right.
And there was this. Oh, I'm getting ahead of my story. But anyhow, I went there, and there on the billboard was a thing about a dog training thing with Jack Knox.
Oh, okay.
Never heard of him or anything, so I got the number down. And, the reason I had a dog then was I broke my back, and they made me just to supervise the breaking the yearlings.
Okay.
Mr. Vanderbilt's Sagamore farm.
Okay.
We had hundreds of horses there, and until I could heal up enough to shoe his horses. And so anyhow.
How'd you break your back, Bud?
Come off the horse.
Oh, okay. All right. Go on then.
I don't remember. Just that I rolled out.
Boom, you went.
And
so you were sidelined.
Yeah. And my job there, because I had a good reputation for shoeing and training, and I was to train or shoe for Mr. Vanderbilt. And so they put me in charge of breaking the yearlings, and all I did was 4 o'clock every morning. I'd go into the barn and saddle up the boys, and they'd gallop 8 or 10 horses, or maybe, you know, and a beautiful, beautiful indoor track. And then we had a racetrack there too, at the Sagamore farm in Maryland. And I got this thing, and I had this dog. Somebody had bought me a dog because I had all afternoon off.
Oh, okay.
3 hours in the morning and nothing else to do.
Right.
In a rented house. And so here was this thing. Oh,
And that's where you, and so you had the dog when you saw the Jack Knox.
yeah, because someone had bought me that dog just to occupy me. Because I told them that I had a border collie that I knew how to.
Yeah,
I thought I knew how to raise around a silo,
Yeah.
And so anyhow, I went there to the trial, and I think it was a little red dog. Because and Jack, Jack, and he had just started coming over here.
Oh, okay.
He was a kid, and he took one look at him, this little round head he had with a bunch of people around, at this little clinic, because there was some dog trial going on in Virginia, which is just very close to where I was at.
All right.
Okay, so I went to his clinic with the dog, and Jack.
Did he think you were pretty good?
Huh?
Did he?
I don't know what he thought of me, but he didn't think much of my dog.
Oh, okay.
You knew he wanted to sell me one.
Oh, okay.
Which he did.
Okay. Well, good for him, because he probably saved you. Here comes our car again. Okay. He saved you having a bad dog. Okay.
And so anyhow, I broke that dog and everything. Just before that, I had gotten into a book that told me I didn't understand right and left, and so then from then on it grew, then I was coming out of my cast. I did everything that Jack Knox told me at that one clinic or so, and I started shooting. I would take the dog with me wherever I go. As this evolved,
Right.
I was shooting some outside horses from cycle horses, and things was about in shape, and I'd shoot fancy horses,
Right.
and I'd shoot somebody's horse, and I'd say, "This one's free, but can I bring some sheep?" And then train my dog.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Pastures, rock fences,
Yeah.
So I trained there,
Neat.
and stayed friends with Jack, through and then when I got that's about the time that somehow I met Ralph Pulford. It was probably in Virginia. Mrs. I forget her name. And she had a beautiful farm, and we had beautiful cows. So I was being schooled then by the two Pulford boys.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I learned some stuff there that it's unreal deep about things to do. And so I bought a pup from Ralph. Oh, that was my best dog I ever had.
Oh, okay.
She was a little light,
Okay.
but she could fool and little Patches.
Patches, yes.
Remember Patches?
Yeah, I remember you telling me about
Oh,
Patches.
Patches. She was something, and she developed on her own. She was 6 months old, and we were getting so many solid instincts from Great Britain at that time.
Right.
I mean, we had dogs.
So tell me, you brought a dog over you partnered up and bought a dog, since we're on the subject. Didn't you own Wisp or bring him?
Wisp, yeah. We gave a lot of money those days. It would be a lot of money now for Wisp.
And what Wisp is it? Bobby Dale's Wisp.
That was a highlight of that era of my career.
I imagine.
The dogs we got from. When I got that job in Texas, one of the youngest ones went to the boss. And he did everything wrong. There was nothing to do right. And that dog, if you can see these hills here,
Yes.
even clear the great big one over there, that mountain. We worked stuff like that, little different shapes, bases, flat on the top, and straight up walls. When I went there to work, see, and that man, that was when the Winter Olympics was just starting, was a relative to the people, to Holmes's and were relatives, and he came out. They didn't have any dogs there.
Okay.
And
And he got a wisp pup.
yeah. Oh, jigs.
And and even though he messed it up, it still turned out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. In spite of the boss we would come in. That's just when the sheep were going out because of the incentive, when the government incentive went out on wool.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was the start of switching to goats.
Oh, okay.
Their rough country was no good. It even has to take a certain kind of a goat that can handle it. Their udders, their backs, So they've evolved to them. And you know how the Mexicans would get them off the mesas?
Okay.
Most of those mesas, to get up on top of them, you had to, you might have to go a half a mile at least till you could find a trail up. Okay, so the Mexicans, when it was full of, I could go on and on. When it was full of sheep, and then when I started, the goats were starting to come in. And then.
So did you need a pretty good dog for that?
Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
You know it. Because that dog, he had to go up there, and then I had a good one time that he might gather maybe 1,000, maybe 500 at a time, from one of those bases by himself.
Wow.
And you know what that dog, he was so smart. He was such a good dog. And I won plenty of trials with him.
So the good dogs, hooking into that good foundation and the good breeding really excelled you, didn't it?
Oh, exactly. And that was they had. As a matter of fact, they had so much instinct and could learn so many things if you give them a shot, And
did the horses? Did your background in horses correlate to that?
The thing about getting out there every day, hour for hour, routines.
Right. That makes a good dog.
Shine, every day.
Being consistent.
You gotta do something, consistent. And then what I feel about it, but anyhow, those dogs. This one dog, I could get his picture, but I can't say his name. But when he brought a bunch to a little trail to come down, if they tried another trail, the whole crew would have to go home and start again tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and the things you could teach the dog made teaching the horses boring.
Right.
Because there was so much more, and it's so infinite.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so you know what they have to do? They ride up one side of one of those mesas. They're all real flat on top. There's lush grass up there and everything. Because it maybe holds what little water comes down and some big rocks. And then they'd have to ride a half a mile to get up that trail. They went up there, and then they rolled stones as these trails cantered down to the valleys, to the draws, and then they'd have to keep the flow going. They'd roll stones down on them.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Really? You mean
them,
flush them with this?
Oh, flush them with the stones to
keep them rolling. Wow.
In case they're going to stop the flow,
Yeah.
And I had one dog. God, he was nice. And when he'd get them all, you would never see him. you'd see all of a sudden you'd see a sheep coming, and you needed them to go to the trail in a leader, you know.
Right.
And he'd be back there, and he wasn't harassing them. He'd lay down, and then some more moved around the other way that was not getting him to go down this trail, and they thought he was soft. He was nowhere. He'd go move over on his own and lay down there and just lay on his belly looking at him and watch. And here comes the smoothest line.
Oh, nice,
It was
nice.
beautiful to watch.
That's
you know?
nice.
And,
So tell me, Bud, when did you start trialing right away?
yeah. Soon as Jack Knox introduced me, or somehow I'm right on the verge of saying her name because she was a great horse, great dog. I just can't think of her name right now, but you know who she was. She was the ringleader of the beginning of the border counties in Virginia, because that part of Virginia is real close to Washington. You know what she would do, and she taught me how to do that. She took them to several times. I forget which presidents liked her to do this. She would take a load of really broke sheep.
Oh, okay.
And she would take and then she like you know when the kids run barrels.
Yeah.
You know, pole.
Right.
Bending.
Yeah.
She'd lay them down there, and she'd take 2 or 3 dogs, and she'd put on shows for the president, his friends, and everything.
Oh, wow. And so you learned from her?
Oh, I learned a lot from her.
Oh, wow.
And then at that time, Ralph was in there and everything, and then the 2 Pulfer boys.
Right.
And Lewis Pulfer taught me about setting out sheep. That you know, there's the biggest. You know, we were running a lot of Barbados sheep then.
Right.
And have you been involved with them much? And
they run a bit.
And they're smart. They're sneaky, you know. And they never take their eyes off of you. And that's what the biggest thing I learned from Lewis, and Lewis especially, was don't take your eye off of one staring at you. He's just waiting for you to see which way you're going to move.
Oh, okay. Eyes. Oh, okay. Is that right?
Yeah, and to set out Barbados sheep so they stay there, you know.
Yeah.
That was the one big lesson I learned from him.
Good.
And I learned a lot about balance and being in the right place and doing the right thing to just put enough pressure to make them turn, you know.
Right.
And,
so tell me this. I'm going to pause here just a minute. We're going to come right back. So just hold on just one moment. Okay, so we're back with Bud Boudreau, and we've moved indoors into the hotel, his, what do you call this, the Chevy?
The Chevy Hilton.
That's right, because we were freezing out there. And so we're back with Bud, and we're going to thanks for sharing your history with us. Such neat experiences with you being a horseshoer and doing the racetrack stuff, and how your horse knowledge came through into the dogs. And so now we're to present. You were running your dog here at Carbondale, and you're one of the top handlers here on the score sheet. You've got your nice dog called Dot, and you have a good chance to get in this double lift. Tell me a little bit about what you think got you to this point. What is the biggest thing that has helped you achieve this success and your knowledge?
Well, we go back to the horses. The thing is being really persistent, you know, every day. You know, go to work with the dog every day, repeating and being consistent and controlling your temper and like that. And
because your dog is pretty happy. She's a pretty happy, joyful worker.
Yeah, she is. So, I don't know how to say this. Well, she's just a natural. She has an instinct, and if you practice in a mistake, it's there with
So,
her.
in other words, she could learn to do it wrong.
Oh, exactly, because well, that's my style. There's so many different styles of training dogs, and so many people are good at a lot of different approaches. But my biggest uh, uh, but the most important thing that I try to do from my passing, like when you're galloping a horse, if a racehorse, if he ever racehorse, your legs are all jacked up and everything. You got a good hold of him, keeping him from running too fast. You don't want him to go that fast. You want him to go slower. And the way he can get you off, thoroughbreds don't buck or nothing very often, but they love to prop. Just stick their two front feet in the ground,
Oh, okay.
and you're long gone. I mean, you have you, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And just like to duck, he might uh, duck to the right or duck to the left, And once he gets you off like that, that's
They,
his tool,
they okay.
And just like a mule that can kick you, mules are known for kicking, especially on back feet. But it is because they um, they didn't evolve because they can't reproduce themselves, so their original characteristics haven't changed through time,
Right.
and they don't have a jowl because you know how the pretty quarter horses have uh, uh, have kept that jowl getting prettier and prettier by getting a good big jowl, but it kind of acts like blinkers to see behind.
Okay.
But that hasn't happened with mules. They
Okay.
don't have a jowl,
Okay.
and they don't have to turn their head to kick you right where they want to. You know what I mean? That's
So,
why.
so are you saying dogs get tools too?
Oh, you bet,
Yeah,
you bet.
okay.
Well, and but I think the toughest mistake is when uh, um, if they're doing something wrong with the sheep and you go overboard on fixing it. Um, then they're not worried about how they handle the sheep. They want to know what they can do to avoid you. And a lot of times it might be chasing sheep or biting them or anything.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so but I just really believe a lot in don't practice in a mistake, and it's not going any farther than the dog's instincts are ready for. Some are more instinctive than others, but I think that's the thing we got going with the border collies is the bred-in instinct that they can pass along, and they some are just natural, and but I work hard not to practice in any mistakes.
Excellent. That's great
And
advice. But what keeps you going? What keeps you going? You're 83, you're sleeping in your truck, just roughing it and getting out there, and you're sharp on the trial field. You're very sharp. You ran your dog, well, I think you were fifth one day, and this is a very hard trial. What keeps you going?
oh, it's just to keep you trying to get that dog more and more polished, so that he's really doing his work well, and these dogs are capable of learning how to how to react to their sheep. And well, that's why I say they make training horses boring. Uh, they learn how to act, how what pleases you. Pretty soon they want to please you, because when they please you, you're nice to them.
Right.
You know, and I think that's what it's all about.
So the dogs keep you going?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And um, uh, like there's no there's nothing there's no limit of what they can learn. You know. And I don't know what else to say. You know.
Yeah. What's your highest high of your life? What's the best thing that's happened to you?
My wife.
Your wife, Sarah?
Yeah, you bet. You know, we're quite a team on our ranch in South Dakota. You know, and she's busy getting back into it, and uh, she had a dog called Dixie that she hardly ever said anything to Dixie, and I was corrected for trying to help her whatever a mistake did went along, and I got smart enough to just keep my mouth shut. But because back in the day when we first got to know each other, she had this Dixie with a big pretty dog, and it rode in the car with Dixie with the truck with Sarah, and she fed it every time she bought a hamburger. Dixie got a hamburger, and
She's
she hardly ever. One time I was working with Charles Stegall in Texas, and I think I was judging then, and I said, Charles, we were doing a job. I said, can I go over and help Sarah? I want to tell her, why don't she stop her dog once in a while? And while we're to stop, you know, boy, was that a mistake? But the biggest thing that she could do, we had some tough trials. I remember some of the real tough places were maybe 40 or 50 of the best handlers in the country who were actually darn good handlers. Couldn't pen them.
yeah.
She walked up there, opened the gate, and Dixie penned them. You know,
That's what good hamburgers will do, and a
yeah,
lot of love.
yeah.
So Sarah, you met her, and you had a funny story about being you
Oh,
somebody
well,
told Sarah that they should ask you about a dog. Tell us a
oh,
little bit about that.
well, when she was in the um, Italian Symphony for a lot of years, and decided she wanted to come back to the States, and she wanted to get. Somehow she had seen something about the dog trials. You know, I can't remember what that was. Anyhow, she came and bought a
Did
trained her horn. But here's what she when she got to this back to this country, she asked around. Uh, who's got a good dog for sale?
right?
And I was when I was judging in Canada one day, somebody made a young boy made a real beautiful pen on some sheep that were really difficult to pen, you know. And I watched that dog after that, and he made another thing, and then
And you would make notes on dogs, wouldn't you?
yeah. I made a little note on my, program I made a hobby of that kind of like about different dogs. Just a word or two, or a plus check or a minus check or something. In
Yeah.
my opinion,
Right.
as I was judging,
So
she
she got the news that you were the man to ask.
yeah, somebody in this country
Yeah.
told her go call me, and I didn't know her from Adam, and so she sounded like a nice person on the telephone, and I
Did
told her about a dog, and I
cuz
said I
cuz
marked it down.
on your notes it sounded like a good
Yeah,
dog.
yeah. I said I even made a note of him
Uh-huh.
on my thing, but then so about 2 days later the phone rings, and she said. She bought the dog, and oh no, the phone rang. No, I called her.
Be,
That's what it was. I went through my things again,
your
about
notes.
my notes. I went through them, and about uh, the next trial or something. Uh, I had a double X, no good, because I remembered I called him a good dog, and I called her and I said, Sarah, don't buy that dog. I said, I've turned over a few pages and found out that I just I thought the dog was a really bad buy, you know. And she said, it's too late. I already bought him. And she brings that up every now and then whenever I try to give her any advice. Yeah, I listen.
Because he didn't really turn out that dog that she bought.
The dog. So I watched that dog run in in Washington State after that, and let me tell you, I never saw a screwier dog. He was absolutely nuts.
So if Sarah doesn't if she doesn't listen to you, she has a good reason because you failed her right at the get go.
So now Sarah does trades her way and I trade mine, and her way works out pretty doggone good. She loves to go play with her dogs. She hangs out with them, wants them in the house, teaches them tricks, how to play with the cat, stuff, all that stuff that they're happy as the dickens to do the things she wants. It's not a lot of physical things with Sarah, so.
Well, you said happy dogs are good dogs, huh?
Oh, you bet.
And happy horses.
And well, it's just like I think I said that before, that I was good with fillies.
Yeah.
Because fillies, uh, they just wanted to be happy to run real good, and you didn't drill them like you did the big old heavy stallions that we used to say you gotta blow them out, and some guys just to blow out what their physiques,
So what I'm getting out of this interview, Bud, and I'd just like to point that out to all our Farm Diggity listeners, especially the men, is, happy wife, happy life. That's what I'm hearing. So you're going to run your dog tomorrow, Dot. And oh man, if you're listening at home, I'm going to tell you, if Bud Boudreau would do this, I would write him a check for this dog. It has won my heart and fancy. Oh, it's out of Coop, Dennis Edwards' Coop. And this dog goes out there and will save Bud. I've seen her. You gave her, you told her, come by or whatever, and she's like, just a minute, Bud, and she not now, hang on. And then she puts these sheep together, because we're on some pretty rank sheep, wouldn't you say here?
Yeah.
I know that they've given me a lot of trouble this weekend, and made me almost cry. But anyway, and your little Dot, she just takes care of you. She's so talented. How old is she?
I think she's just coming 4.
Oh my goodness.
You know what? When I worked for the hair ranch, we worked a lot of wild stock.
Right.
And I won't go into a lot of detail about me and the boss would spend days gathering things that were missed, in big country. But what I learned from it is that when I watch sheep, I just watch the faces.
Okay.
And Dot's picked right up on that. If you notice, when we're trying to turn something in, we're not trying to turn the bunch in. We're got our eye on the lead sheep. I don't care how many sheep there are. There's one that's leading.
Right.
As a rule, unless they're busted up. But she's learned to just touch noses, just turn her nose. If you watch her, when you try to hold a line, she's just touching. As soon as that nose turns,
then
she's just there, And once she's turned that nose on a lead sheep, the rest are going to follow. But it isn't a matter of turning the sheep, especially on sheep that are moving.
Right.
It's just, and she's capable. She got a nice face bite when she needs it, and she's learned along with me that we're doing the same thing. We're just touching that nose, and then that's the end of any command. As soon as the nose is touched, that's
You
it.
mean turning her head and just
Yeah,
yeah,
and we're just watching a nose,
not all of them.
and can hold
And
a
she's
hot.
tough. She's tough
Yeah.
and
Oh,
confident. You've
well, she's built up her confidence because it works.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and so we're on getting on the same page like that.
I would say you're on the same page.
Yeah.
She looks wonderful. So this is a community. The trialing scene is we have a community of people, don't we?
Oh yeah, yeah. And,
Are they good to you?
oh heck yeah. I mean, I can't never see anything really go on that's. I think in our community, if there's anything between any of us, you just ignore that person. You know what I mean? You got
Yeah.
plenty of other people that agree with you. Do you
There
feel
you
like
go.
that?
There's another good nugget. If someone doesn't, just skip them. Go
Yeah,
to
you got plenty to go to
yeah,
because nobody's confined to anything. We're just cruising all the time.
yeah. We're cruising. Yeah. So tell me what your future is. What do you want to do in the future?
Well, I hope we can stay afloat. I've I've made my living for 30, almost 40 years just with the dogs. I had a, I had a little gig going here a while ago.
You
Want to
did?
hear what that was?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Oh, night, night watchman on the um, 4 days on and for that nice pipeline that our president got rid of.
Okay. So you were doing some of that.
Yeah, yeah, and
Cool.
it was nice because we were a mile, it was coming right through us, and
So did you say 30 years working dogs? You made a living at it? Is that what you said?
exactly. That's what
Training people and
I know. I don't.
training dogs?
I don't know. I don't have. I enjoy people coming over and working
Yeah.
and and we work together and everything like that. But that's about as what the talking I've done now is about the most I've ever thought about training anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I tried clinics for a while, and I won't tell you all the reasons I quit them, but I'm not good at it at all. You know?
Well, everybody has a gift, and you have so many with animals and
Yeah.
the
Well,
Phillies.
yeah, Phillies. And hey, it's just like the Phillies. You give them a ball in their stall so they can play with it. If they're nervous, get them a goat for to live with. Anything like that. It's keep them happy.
There you go.
You know,
That's a great.
you got to keep and a lot of these border collies is just you just got to keep them happy. Because
It's nice.
and some guys got a knack of really getting into one, and it works. So maybe it works for them. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some good talented guys out
Hmm.
there, including you, Bud.
Well,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
I appreciate you
Mhm.
meeting with me.
Okay.
It's been fun, and I met you. I was your clerk one time at a.
Oh,
Do you
you,
remember
oh
that,
yeah, I
Bud?
still got the picture up on my
I
on
I
my wall
I
about
I
the mule.
doodled. I gave you a doodle, didn't I?
Of
Well,
my
I was.
mule.
Yep,
Lenore.
I drew
Oh,
your
Lenore. You know how Lenore got her name?
how.
Um, um, oh, I bought two mule colts, two uh, suckling mule colts, and because of the characters, the highlight of anybody through that era 30 years ago, Ralph was he was, everybody liked Ralph, or maybe they didn't, but they sure had me fooled. But Ralph was, he, he was just quite a person, and he had his own way, and he wouldn't. I broke a lot of his babies because he had a way different approach on the young dogs, and he was such a good competitor that he didn't have time to start a lot of dogs.
So you would do that?
Yeah, and but no.
So how did your mule get her name?
Oh! So we named the two. One was a filly, and one was they were both fillies. Or no, one was a colt, one was filly. And mules are given to jump.
Right.
They jump just because they've got that good eyesight. They see the ground without looking, and 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 they jump like a rabbit. Anyhow, and and uh, and Ralph. Oh yeah, it was the Ralph, and Lenore was the one I kept. But it was Ralph and Lenore's babies growing up, and that was fun for everybody on the, in our group of people. Ralph and Lenore, the two mules, and and then, but I I had to sell Ralph because he kept jumping fences, and I couldn't keep him in, so I sold him as a young dog, but we kept Lenore,
Yeah.
So we had Ralph and Lenore.
And that mule is the one that I doodled for you while
Oh
I
yeah,
was scribing for you.
with a skirt on her, standing up and everything. It is a great picture.
Thank you.
I still got it.
If I ever get famous, you'll have my original.
Yeah, it's right out in our utility room as you walk in our house.
Do you know that was a lot of years. That was 15 years ago. Do you know that Bud? I don't know if you remember, but we were in the car doing doing that judging, and we were supposed to you not me. I was just the scribe. I was just your sidekick, and you were supposed to honk the horn during the shed, and and I can't remember who was out there shedding, but it was quite a big cat, and they shed and they looked at you, and instead of honking the horn, you turned the windshield wipers on, and they were going, and they were looking like, aren't aren't you gonna aren't you gonna honk that horn? And you were like, finally hit that horn, and then you said to me, I swear you to secrecy on that one. And we
Oh yeah.
and now we just
Now
told the
you
world.
broke your promise.
I did. The whole world right on Farm Diggity, but now we know that instead of honking, you turned on the windshield wipers. Oh, good night. Well, Bud, it's just a pleasure to know you. I love your attitude. I love what you said to me when you pulled in here. You said, I'm just so happy to be here. I just get out of that truck in the morning and I think, I'm so thankful just to be able to do one more day.
Exactly. I put it on the thing there, but I keep going to church as often as I can because I got to have somebody to say thank you to let me get up every day to do this. And the other thing I got going for me is I got my wife talked into that it's for therapeutic reasons because my legs are trying to give it up, and so it's really it's a real necessity to play golf once a week, and she's bought into it now because she drops me off at the golf course and I walk 9 holes.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm ready to work tomorrow. See,
Yeah.
but it's therapy.
Well, that's good therapy, and Bud, I might mention that you might stop sleeping in this truck. Your legs might go better, but
Take a glance at it.
it's not big in here. This is the hotel. But listen, I love you to pieces, Bud Boudreau, and I'm so happy that I got to know you. And you're tough. You make the rest of us look like big sissies, and I just love I love the way you handle your dogs and your little Dot and your story.
Yeah, well,
We don't have like we need 20 hours. We could just keep going with all the stories of your life. They're incredible, and I appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you well, and go get them
oh,
tomorrow.
can you shut up? Yeah, yeah, I'll just tell you. You know what the funnest thing is in Texas, gathering? Uh, we had when you don't have to record it.
It's recording,
Okay,
bud.
but anyhow, you know what it was so rough going there that we had a lot of goats
Yeah.
and we had a lot of sheep, and when we were shipping them all, uh, it's in the thousands, many thousands of sheep, and big country and big crews and all, and the goats, they're different. When they're up on those bases, they stand there and they've got a lookout.
Really?
You won't never see the pack of goats up there. You see one head, maybe two heads at the edge of the mesquite up there, and he's a lookout. And there's a lot of caves where we work there, and you'll see them, and they'll go into these caves and they'll put a lookout at the doors, always looking out. And so when we have together some of those pastures back in the day, when we sold the top half of that, when we gathered, we'd have a crew on the top of the mesa, a crew on the bottom with the dogs. If they got them down, if you got them down with dogs, you could handle them, because once they got up on the side of the hill or a mountain, you know, they could outdo you. You
Okay.
wouldn't get them gathered. But then we had one man that rode the side and checked every cave there.
Looking for goats.
Yeah, to see that none of them are hiding. They hide in there. They know how to get down with their lookout. I'll call them. They'll get in the pack in the corner of those caves,
Wow.
and to have been able to witness things like that,
Amazing. So neat. Well, it's time to walk dogs, isn't it? It's getting dark. Thank you, Bud. It's Farm Diggity, and it's a good life.
Ain't we lucky?
Ain't we?